Hi, I'm Addie,
Maggie.
I'm Aubrey.
and today we're making Kit Kat cake.
Yeah. Leavening is the process of making food products rise. There are two types of leaveners, biological leaveners and chemical leaveners. An example of biological leavener is yeast. Yeast is a fungus that is responsible for making bread products rise. How it works is the enzymes in the yeast break down the carbohydrates into simple sugars. The yeast then digests the sugar and produces carbon dioxide, which rises and then makes the bread rise. But yeast is not responsible for making cake rise. However, eggs and baking powder are. Eggs are a leavener that are not as strong but are included in our cake. And how they work is you beat air into the eggs, and then when it's heated, that air rises and can cause the cake to rise slightly. But this does not make the cake rise on its own. It needs baking soda too. And in the cake mix is baking powder, a mix of sodium bicarbonate, cornstarch, sodium, aluminum sulfate, calcium sulfate, and monocalcium phosphate. The sodium bicarbonate is also known as baking soda, and it is the main thing responsible for making cake rise. The other chemical additives are acids, which when mixed correctly with baking soda make a good tasting cake. The baking powder in our cake is double acting, meaning that it has two jobs. One, it can dissolve in cold water, and two, it can react when heated. This is the chemical reaction for when baking soda is heated. The reaction only occurs when baking soda is heated because heat instigates the chemical reaction. But basically, when the reaction occurs, the baking soda is heated and it breaks down to release carbon dioxide, which makes the cake rise. Also, just a side note, the baking soda must be dissolved in cold water first before being heated, otherwise the reaction will not happen. And that's leavening.
Heat energy plays a large role in baking a cake. The three types of heat energy are conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is the transfer of heat energy from particle to particle between substances through the contact or within a substance. Convection is the transfer of heat energy that results from the motion of atoms and molecules. Moving particles have kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is transferred to other particles through collisions of an atomic scale. The temperature is a measure of how much kinetic energy individual molecules have or how fast they are moving. Radiation is the process where heat transfers through empty space. Each of these different types of heat transfers take place in an oven. When baking a cake, radiation is the main method of transportation. It will radiate from the oven heating element to the surface of the cake, which will heat the outer surface of the cake. Conduction will then allow this heat to transfer to the interior of the cake via contact paths between each molecule of the cake mixture. Conduction will also occur between any air particles, which are in direct contact with the heating element, and should they come into contact with the surface of the cake, conduction will again take place between the heated air particle and the surface of the cake. Convection will occur by heating the fluid in the oven, air molecules. When the air molecules come into contact with the cake, it will also heat the outside of the cake.
Making sure food is safe to eat is very important when cooking all things. When food is unsafe to eat, it is because bacteria has begun to grow on the food. That is what gives you food poisoning. Food poisoning is when someone eats a food that contains toxins like germs and bacteria on it. This causes people to throw up, have diarrhea, and upset stomachs. Bacteria is everywhere, including in our intestines, helping us digest food, like our cake. It can also be in the sink, on door handles, and on leftover food. Bacteria are tiny organisms that are made up of single cells. Bacteria have ribosomes like a normal cell, but they lack organelles and a nucleus, and they do have pili, flagella, and a cell capsule that normal cells do not have. Bacteria will grow and multiply if it is in the right living condition. That is why we will refrigerate our leftover cake. Bacteria can survive in temperatures from 5 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. That is why a refrigerator is kept at 4.4 degrees Celsius. A refrigerator works by exchanging hot air with cold air. Modern refrigerators use a gas called tetrafluoroethane, also known as HFC. A compressor compresses the HFC and it goes through these coils that cause warm air to lose heat. HFC also cools and turns into a liquid because of high pressure, although when it goes through the expansion valve, it vaporizes because of high pressure. The coils go around the whole refrigerator and pull heat out, making the fridge cold. The compressor sucks up the cold gas and the gas goes back through the same process over and over.
Okay. Bye.
Give it a twirl.
Thanks for watching.